Hello and good morning, everyone, and welcome to your daily sit rep for Thursday, the 13th of November, 2025. I'm your host, Mike Shelby. And let me just address this thing right out of the gate here. Bad Wabbit says on YouTube Shorts this morning, Mike's short video on the 6 layers of an area assessment came up number 3. That's very good to hear. And, it's a good reminder. I need to start doing a short every day, just 5 a week, Monday through Friday. I'm going to start doing that today. All right. With that, Robert, good morning. Let's go ahead and jump inside the Beltway here.
Good morning, Mike. So on a phone call yesterday, some top Democrats said they were going to renew this Obamacare subsidy fight in January of next year. And they also predicted that they're going to have renewed leverage ahead of the 31 January 2026 funding deadline, which to me looks like they are preparing to cause another shutdown fight on the 31st of January over these Obamacare subsidies.
This is important because, remember, this color revolution movement, and again, broadly, there's 3 phases: protest, resistance, revolution. We're on the cusp of moving from protest to resistance. It's probably going to start next year. So I imagine these continued shutdown fights are going to be used to agitate and radicalize and turn protesters into activists to grow that pool of activists for organized resistance that we will see next year. So very important topic here. Maybe another 31 January 2026 shutdown potentially. Thanks, Robert. Go ahead.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said yesterday that the FAA is going to consider easing flight restrictions over the next week after the federal government is reopened. And Duffy said that that lifting this 10% nationwide flight cut is going to depend on how many of these air traffic controllers return to work over the next week and a half. He said it's going to be based on the data for flight safety.
Mm-hmm. And there's briefly, these air traffic controllers, they're going to receive back pay, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So maybe normal holiday traffic around Thanksgiving, not airport shutdowns and canceled flights any more than usual.
Right now, yeah, it's looking like this is going to ease up.
Okay, great.
And then moving over to the domestic side, self-described Democratic Socialist Katie Wilson defeated the incumbent Democrat Bruce Harrell for the race for Seattle mayor yesterday. There are also some progressive candidates that defeated incumbents for Seattle City Council president and Seattle City attorney. For the Seattle City attorney one, that is very important because that was previously a Republican or is currently a Republican until they're sworn in. So I expect that there will be more local government resistance to any type of federal surge in Seattle next year, because I expect more of these surges to happen after April 2026, when those National Guard reaction forces are stood up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then also remember we have these supposedly 10,000 ICE agents going through the training pipeline. I don't think they've reached 10,000 yet, obviously. I will just say that one thing about Seattle. Let's remember back to 2020. And this was probably June of 2020. There's a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. It's a revolutionary left political party. And I forget this lady's name. It's like Karma Shawant or something like that. She was on the Seattle City Council. She was the one who unlocked the doors to Seattle City Hall to allow Antifa to go and occupy Seattle City Hall. She was the one that did that. And that just shows you how absolutely radical these people are. So thanks for that, Robert.
Oh, and then the last item in the domestic sit rep, the Customs and Border Protection confirmed that CBP agents are conducting enforcement operations in Portland, Oregon, but they did not provide any details about how many agents have been deployed or when that operation began. Based on the reports of arrests and ICE operations, it's likely to have been launched in the last week or so.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. All right. So is this something that you expect is going to remain quiet? I know President Trump has signaled previously that he wants to have a federal surge into Portland. It's going to be quite a showdown if he does. But over the next couple of weeks, what do you expect?
Well, there's been, from what I've seen, there's been 2 types of these federal surges. There have been the more quiet ones like Boston, Massachusetts. Memphis has also been less overt than Los Angeles and Chicago. And so right now, I think it remains to be seen. I think it depends on how many of these CBP agents are actually operating, because in Chicago, it was in the hundreds that had been deployed. And previously, the Trump administration had deployed 100 to Alameda, the Coast Guard base outside of San Francisco, before they paused that one. So I think it just depends on how many CBP agents are actually on the ground in Portland.
Mm-hmm. All right, great. Thanks for that, Robert. And let's move on to our global sit rep. Jared, good morning. We were talking just before the show about this opposition candidate in Venezuela, apparently actively pushing for regime change. And yesterday we reported that Maduro is making some pretty serious moves to build up internal defense against potentially, this is not a prediction, obviously, but just potentially some form of U.S. military action, including non-military action. But what's the latest here from this Venezuelan opposition?
Yes. So this lady's last name is Machado. That's how I'll refer to her here. She was speaking to a forum of former Latin American presidents and asked them to, quoting, accompany us in this historic moment in its decisive hours as Venezuela achieves the guarantee of orderly, peaceful, and irreversible transition of power. So this shows a confidence from her that regime change is happening. It's in progress, not just going to happen, but is actively going on. We just covered yesterday, Maduro is preparing for any kind of, it looks like military intervention. He's going from municipalities all the way up to national level. And the U.S., again, just yesterday, we covered that an aircraft carrier strike group has entered the region. So there's enormous naval support and potentially marine support in the area if things do go south. No pun intended. Yeah, it looks like we're gearing up for it. I still don't think this will require an invasion.
No,
I want to take that off the table immediately.
So, of course, that is not
that's going to happen.
Obviously. So I think one of the big reasons why Trump went after the drugs coming out of Venezuela and the drug networks and why he's bombing these boats is because if it's true that Maduro was making money from the drug trade, and I just have to assume that it is, when that money flow stops or is impacted, Maduro is in a position where he can no longer pay people. He can no longer pay generals. He can no longer pay people for their loyalty. And when those generals or when those people who surround him are not being paid, they're far more likely to turn on him. So I would just have to say, in addition to trying to stop drugs coming into the United States, that is very likely to be a part of this erosion of Maduro's legitimacy and power going through basically economic warfare here, even though it's a counter-drug operation. So, all right, thanks for that, Jared. Let's go ahead and move on.
Yep. And speaking of economic warfare, Treasury Department sanctioned 32 individuals and entities and a whole host of nations, specifically to target Iran's missile fuel precursor supply. So what that is, the chemicals that allow you to make solid rocket fuel. This kind of negates Iran's main offensive ability and any potential they have for building a nuclear missile. If you can't launch it, it really doesn't matter how many warheads you build.
Mm-hmm. And I just also want to note that these sanctions apply to companies in half a dozen different countries, correct?
Yes. Didn't plan on going through the list on the show. It is in the report, but the UAE, Turkey, China, Hong Kong, India, Germany, and Ukraine. And a lot of these are tied to a single individual that's running a network, but nevertheless, all of these entities are there, and there's 32 of them in total.
Mm-hmm. All right, interesting.
All right, and then lastly, this one bears a mention because it's a first major break in Chinese activity in 3 years. Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense reported zero activity from the Chinese military for 2 straight days. Haven't seen that before. Well, not in the last 3 years. Now, there is a typhoon in the area. I think that is the cause. I do not think China's preparing for major military action. But when China does decide to take action on Taiwan, this is what I expect to see. So if they did decide to take advantage of this, that we would expect to see this. And I will be keeping a much closer eye on it over the next couple of days as the storm passes. Hopefully they return to normal operations.
Mm-hmm. Normal, yeah.
Well, normal escalated operations.
The status quo.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Earl brings up a good point here. Last point on this Venezuela thing. They have threatened Guyana. If you remember, and Jared, I know you know this, but there's an area of Guyana, rather, that is, it's called Essequibo, and there are oil reserves there. And so I think Earl's right on the money here. counter drug operations are a secondary operation. It's about ensuring that Venezuela does not jump over the border and have this military invasion. By the way, Maduro talked to Putin. I think it was when this first started happening. I think this was maybe earlier this year, or was it last year? I forget. All these months run together now. But Putin strongly encouraged Maduro not to invade Essequibo. So I think that is also a fair data point. All right, go ahead.
I was going to say, if we're going to mention that, it's worth mentioning that Trinidad, which has already said, yeah, bring American troops into us, where you can use us for whatever you want. We're fully on board. They have an open dispute with them over an oil field that's underwater there. Guyana also has one. And basically anyone that Venezuela touches, they have a territorial dispute with due to oil.
Mm-hmm. Certainly. All right. And all right, thanks for that, Jared. And moving on here, 62 protests today. Is just as a reminder, if you see a protest in your area, highly recommend you go. Just go and check it out. And if you can't because you're at work, phone a friend. Get someone in your network to go check it out. At least do a drive past, do a walk past, get down there, get eyes on, see who's down there, which political parties, which groups, which organizations, etc. All right, and coming up over on the high side for the rest of our members-only briefing, Robert's going to run us down the Homeland Operations brief. We're going to talk about the U.S. Attorney's Office in Miami is clearing house, apparently getting ready for major legal action, criminal charges, etc., against some of these Biden and Obama era officials. And we'll talk about a few more things. If you'd like to join us, head over to forwardobserver.com/trial, start a free 7-day trial, and come join us for the rest of the early warning brief. We appreciate your support. As always, thanks for watching. And early warning, folks, please stand by. Jared, please take us out.